Oh, you're on mute.
Hi.
Hello. I was on my account and then, I wasn't sure what time Cheryl would log in. So I got in and logged in the ICF Chicago account. So yay, I just wanted to make sure you had everything you needed.
Yeah, thanks. Let's go ahead and do share my slides and make sure I can see the chat and all that stuff.
Well, let me give you control here. It won't let me. Why won't it let me?
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
All right. I just made you the co-host.
Alrighty.
Yay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I didn't know what time. I always feel bad, like maybe this is messing Cheryl up, but I kind of like for you to get in and make sure everything's okay before we get into the thick of it.
That's right. Whoops, where's my PowerPoint? Where are you, PowerPoint?
Technology is eluding me lately. I'm not sure what the I'm not sure why. I think it's just everything. I think everybody's on overload. Everything's on overload. Technology is on overload.
Let me quit Word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hold on here. What am I doing wrong? Oh, here. There it is. Thank you.
You gotta love it, don't you? I'm telling you, it's technology, and I swear to you, they change things around in Zoom so often that you can't find anything.
I'm glad to hear you say that because I feel sometimes so, what's going on with me?
Okay. I do too, but I think they just change things around. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's updates or things like that, but it's very unsettling sometimes. But I guess you roll with it and call it nice.
Right. And yeah, I know one of the things that's funny too is when you go from one platform to another, sometimes they don't do things the same way.
Exactly.
All right. So I just want to make sure I can advance things. Okay, I can advance things and I can see the chat. And now I want to here, go back into Word. Back to PowerPoint. Oh, it's not where I meant to paste it. Huh. I can't seem to paste into the chat.
Let me see if I can. I have one of the
Yeah, it keeps on wanting to paste it right on my PowerPoint, which I do not want.
I have the first link, the core competencies link. I could paste.
Yeah, it's basically the core competencies link, and then
the other two links.
Yeah, then there's a PDF of the new model, and then there's a link to the PCC marker. So if they want to refer to them when we are talking.
Well, I'll just go ahead and paste them in now, and you can just say, hey, they're in the chat. Scroll to the top.
That's right. That's what I was trying to do, but it wasn't letting me paste.
Of course it's not. Why are you surprised? Come on.
Hi, Cheryl. Thanks. We were just talking about how it would not let me paste in the chat. Wanted to paste right on top of my PowerPoint, which was not good.
Oh no, I just realized I was muted. Sorry.
That's okay. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Sunny day. It's supposed to be super cold tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah.
Cheryl, do you want me to stay logged in as ICF so I can watch for the waiting room too? Or I can log out now and log back in my own account, whatever you want me to do.
Oh no, you're good. You can stay, you know,
Okay.
save a couple of minutes.
Yeah, sounds perfect to me. I always like to get things squared away before everyone comes in, so we're not.
Yeah.
So we can be present.
Mhm. Yeah.
So.
How are you, Misty?
Doing well.
Good.
I'm doing well. I cannot complain.
Yeah, right. Considering all the things that are happening in the world, this is great.
Exactly. Exactly. I've got about a foot of snow here, so.
Wow. Yeah, ours is melting.
Where are you, Misty?
I'm a little bit south of Pittsburgh.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes. So we got probably maybe 4 or 5 inches last night.
Huh.
So it's I gotta love it. It's
Yeah.
winter time, I suppose. So I might as
Yeah.
well embrace it and love it.
Yeah.
Where are you, Cheryl? I think I've
In
asked you
Chicago.
whereabouts.
The south side.
Yeah, I'm on the north side.
Okay.
Jackie, I did get all 3 of those links posted for you. So they're all in there already. And if you need me to post them again, I'll be glad to.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Since I just wanted to paste right on top of my PowerPoint slide.
I told you technology is crazy lately. I work with someone that publishes a magazine mid-month, and we weren't able to get it out mid-January because the software that we used to publish online wasn't working.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just I think it's a lot for everybody. I think every systems just have overload, and what do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the I can't think of the name, the astrological thing.
Oh, Mercury retrograde.
Mercury retrograde. Yeah, that's part of it too. Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. Like, just stop.
Yeah, supposedly it's a good time for reflection, getting caught up on things. But yeah, it's a time when misunderstandings can happen and travel problems can happen.
Yeah.
But there's other times that those can happen too.
Exactly. Exactly. I just love these core competency calls. They really bring them to life. And you guys do such a great job in explaining, and I just love them.
Well, thank you. That's great to hear. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I always feel like I spend more time preparing than I think I'm going to, and then yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another coaching group that I belong to, they're just getting ICF certified, and they've been around coaching company for about 15 years, and they were really disgruntled. And I was like, guys, it is so great. So I was trying to get, because they're all over the world, the coaches are, and I was like, join ICF Chicago. I mean, you can join your own chapter, but it's great. The core competency calls, it's just so great. Everything is so great. Just join our chapter. And a lot of them were like, okay. And then another lady said, well, I'm in New Orleans, you can join mine. And I wanted to be like, nobody wants to join New Orleans. Not that I know what's happening in the New Orleans chapter. Of course I don't. And I didn't want to be mean. That wouldn't have been professional. So I was like, yeah, lots of good stuff.
Boy, New Orleans. I haven't been to New Orleans in a long time. I love New Orleans.
Yeah. 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 I went to school in Baton Rouge, which is about an hour away.
Hmm.
And I went to Mardi Gras once and I was like, never again.
I know somebody told me that she went to Mardi Gras once and it took, I think she said it took an hour to walk 1 block or something.
Yes. Yes.
So that was all I needed. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But it's good. I mean, even after the real Mardi Gras, they still have parades. I mean, we went a few years ago, a couple of years ago, maybe it was 2-3 years ago. My boyfriend's daughter wanted to go there for a birthday. She had never gone for her 30th birthday. And we went, and this was in March, in the middle of March, and they were still having parades and throwing beads and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I mean, the food is so good there.
Oh my
And you
God,
know,
so good.
when I went, we just asked people, where's a good place to go? Where's a good place to go? Because what was interesting was the famous places weren't necessarily as good as the
Oh,
places
right.
the people
Definitely.
told you to go to.
Definitely. We went to this dive bar. I mean, started walking into the bar and I was like, this looks a little sketchy. They're like, no, just go back there. That's where you get the sandwiches. Oh my God. They were the best poor boys I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I never would have gone in there just to go. I just never would have done that.
Yeah, and I forget the name of it, but there was this place that had the croissants. It was the best croissant I've ever had ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Karen.
Looks like we got a couple people. Oh yeah, I guess we're just a couple minutes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason today, I'm feeling a little bit of cabin fever or something. I'm just feeling like I want to get out.
Yeah. I'm just glad the sun is shining.
Yeah.
And I have nice big windows and that just helps me so much.
Me too. Me too. I'm going to go for a walk after this with a friend. We're going to walk on the Loyola campus.
Oh, nice.
It's lovely. It's a lovely campus and it's right on the water.
Yeah.
And,
My boyfriend's daughter lives right up there. I didn't know how close she lived there.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah. It's a beautiful campus. So we're going to go for a walk. That's kind of part of my mental health practice is to go for a walk with a friend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we did. We moved from Flossmoor to the city last year.
Oh.
And just walking by the lake once, it was opened up, just made such a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, welcome everybody. As you join, please go ahead and put your wherever you're joining us from, wherever you're logging in or calling in from, and I'm inviting people to type in a word or phrase that describes or expresses your emotional state or your mood right now. Welcome, Karen from St. Charles. Joyful, wonderful. Thank you for that.
Hello. And yeah, that Loyola area is beautiful. It's where I went to grad school. Well, I went to their Water Tower campus, but kind of went back and forth. That area is beautiful. And Madonna della Strada there, and just, it's a beautiful campus.
Yeah.
I have my camera off and I'm going on and off of mute just because I'm having lunch now and multitasking a little bit with that. So.
Okay.
Karen, I finally finished my Better Up on onboarding.
I heard from them. Yeah, I was glad that worked out for you.
Yeah,
I
thank you
got
so
an
much.
update from them. Yeah, you and Pam.
Oh, okay.
So if you know anyone else who's looking, send them my way.
Yeah, will do.
Yeah. And happy to answer any questions as you start getting members and stuff like that. And
okay, thank you.
Bradley, welcome from Oklahoma City.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Hi, Heather and Beth. We're inviting people to type in the chat where you're joining us from, where you're logging in or calling in from, and also, if you would, a word or phrase that expresses your emotional state or your mood right now. Grateful. Cheryl's grateful. Well, welcome, Bob. Chrissy from Alexandria is feeling settled. Heather's feeling very grateful for the sunshine and the chance to be here. Bob's energized and munching a sandwich. Great. Heather's here from Toronto. Great. So wait, like maybe one more minute, just like maybe 30 seconds, and we'll begin with a little practice I'd like to share with you. Welcome to Maintains Presence. Sylvia is feeling hopeful. Joining us from Arlington Heights. Okay, looks like we have 16 people here. Angie's joining us from Evanston, and she's feeling happy to be here and glad she organized herself to be here. Well, thank you, Angie. All right. What I'd like everybody to do is, as we begin, I'd like to share. Actually, excuse me, Cheryl, did you have announcements you wanted to make?
No, thank you everyone for being here, and we appreciate you joining us today. So take it away, Jackie.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So what I'd like to start with is a practice, a breathing practice to support us in just being fully present and kind of letting go anything that's happened already this morning and about to happen yet today or in the coming days. So I'd like everybody to put down your sandwich, put down anything you're holding, and just take a moment to put your feet flat on the ground and take a few deep breaths. Take a deep breath and fill up your diaphragm. Release it. Take another deep cleansing breath, fill up your lungs and your diaphragm, and just allow your body to relax as you take in a deep breath and release it. Let's take one more deep breath. And let it go. And now find your feet. Notice your feet. Notice the pressure of your feet against your socks or the floor, your slippers, whatever you're wearing. Notice the skin in between your toes. Notice the tops of your feet. Notice the sides of your feet. See if you can feel the blood circulating inside your feet. And let these sensations grow in strength and spread throughout your body. Now, while maintaining this quality of attention, let another breath emerge. Now find your hands. Notice your hands. Notice the pressure of your hands on whatever they're touching, whether it be a desk, your legs, whatever. Notice the skin in between your fingers. Notice your fingernails. See if you can notice the inside of your hands and fingers. Notice your wrists. Now let the sensations grow in strength and spread as you notice the rest of your body. Now, while maintaining this quality of attention, let a new breath emerge. Now notice your head balancing on your neck. Notice the inside of your ears. Notice any sensations you're picking up, any sounds, any sense of taste, any sense of smell. Let the sensation grow and spread throughout your body. With the same quality of attention, let a new breath emerge. Now, notice your breath. Breathe in and out on purpose. Now, with the same quality of attention, let your breath resume its normal rhythm. And now imagine that with the power of your attention, you can impact your vibration. That you can send a vibration of peace, of kindness, just with your attention. Let that feeling of peace and kindness spread throughout your body. Now imagine you can raise that vibration to a vibration of joy. And imagine that that vibration can extend throughout a perimeter around your body, touching whoever might be anywhere near you. All right, and now come back to our webinar. That's a practice I learned from one of my teachers, Stuart Heller. I added the vibrational stuff at the end. That's just something I've been working with lately. And how do you feel? Does anyone want to say how you feel?
Awesome. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
Is that your own meditation, or I mean, do you read a script, or is that just because you've been practicing and you know how to do it?
Yeah, I have the handout for it, but yes, it's Stuart Heller teaches somatics, and he has his own. He's written a couple books, and I studied with him like in ancient times, even before I went through the coaching training. And he believes that how we hold ourselves and how we move impact how we think, how we feel, how we sound. And so I've used some of the things I work with him on. You know, what I learned from him when I work with clients. And this is that the centered presence is something that you do to kind of put yourself into neutral, to kind of like be more present. And then there's other things that support you with various things that are going on. So
It's fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, thank you so much. So yeah, Bradley's saying he's feeling much more present and grounded. Sylvia says she feels much more grounded and have better focus. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. So I appreciate that very much. So sometimes when we meet with a client, they can be in a particular energetic state, right? They can be in a particular emotional state. Sometimes we can be in a particular emotional state when we come to our session. So this is something that I learned to use that supports me in being present and maintaining presence. And, you know, I think that's one of the things that we want to talk about today about the core competency maintains presence, is that our presence actually has an impact on our clients, how we bring ourselves to our client meetings. And I forgot to share this lovely little photo here I wanted to share with you guys. How we bring ourselves, just our physical presence has an impact on our clients, and that's something that sometimes we forget. That we sometimes we might think that we, you know, it's very important for us to continue learning, learn new techniques, learn new distinctions, and it's fine for us to just be quiet and just be with our clients, because a lot of times that's when all of a sudden something comes out of nowhere, and it's what we need to focus on. So yeah, thanks to Andy, says she feels more here now. Thank you very much. So just a couple of things about me. I oftentimes forget to introduce myself on these things. So I've been coaching for quite a long time. I've been coaching since the mid 90s when I went through the Newfield training. And I studied with Stuart the year before that, actually, just because I was fascinated by what he was teaching. So my clients tend to be at a turning point. There's something that something really important that they're wanting to do, and it's either they don't know where to begin, or they've begun and it's not quite working. And it generally involves getting other people to do something. Like, you know, I work with clients that are solo practitioners. I've worked with clients who are leaders at Fortune 100 companies. I've also worked as a consultant to lead, work with my clients to lead, you know, enterprise-wide change initiatives, and also leadership retreats. So, but I use, you know, everything I've learned from coaching when I do that. So, all right, enough there. So I'll share a few, today what we'll do is I'll share a few opening thoughts. And oh, I forgot to mention in the chat there, we have, you know, the core competencies. There's a link to the core competencies in the chat. There's a link to the PCC markers if you wanted to download them for yourself. So there's, Misty put that up there for us, put that in there for us. So yeah, so I'll share a couple of opening thoughts. We'll briefly talk about the process to develop the new competencies for those who may not be as familiar with that process, just briefly touch on it. I will obviously talk about maintains presence and what it means. We'll look a little bit at how maintains presence compares to coaching presence. My quick comment about that is I feel like in the new core competencies, they opened it up. They made two competencies, maintains presence and embodies a coaching mindset. I feel like they expanded it because it's important. We'll look a little bit at the new PCC markers. The MCC markers, as far as I know, are not available yet. And we'll also, I'll really welcome your thoughts. I'll welcome your questions throughout the session. So please let us know if you have a question. It's fine to ask questions throughout. We'll have time for questions at the end. But we'll also look at how do we continue to develop the competency of maintains presence. So, all right, so just a couple of things. Coaching, I think it's always useful to look at what is the ICF definition of coaching: partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. I've been coaching since it was fairly a newer profession, and there was a lot of need, and maybe there continues to be need to make distinctions about what's distinct about coaching, consulting, mentoring, therapy. And what I like to say is coaching is about creating the future that we meet our clients where they are with their current worldview, their current state of their current mindset, their current emotional state. We meet them where they are and then partner with them to create their next, what they want to create. And that includes, being with them as suddenly what they want to create changes. So sometimes, and that's, the power of maintaining presence, is that sometimes why they hired you is not necessarily why they continue working with you, or, and sometimes we even discover that in our contracting conversation, what they want to do, why they think they're hiring you becomes revealed as you kind of probe with them. So the definition, just briefly, we'll talk a little more deeply in a minute. Maintains presence is being fully conscious. The coach is fully conscious with the client, employing a style that's open, flexible, grounded, and confident. So yeah, I generally always do some sort of exercise to make myself really grounded with my clients, since oftentimes, they will bring in whatever's happened to them that day, or all kinds of stuff. And they've hired us to support them in shifting what's possible for them, shifting what they can see. And we can oftentimes suddenly find ourselves, kind of like just responding to what is being presented, what their normal way of doing things might be. And so that's why, in my opinion, maintains presence is so important. And it's funny because maintains presence has there's so many things really going on when we think about maintaining presence. Because so when we're working with a client, yes, we need to be fully conscious and present with the client. And our client has asked us to support them in making something happen, creating something. And if we're working with a company, there might be company goals as well as your coachee's goals. So we're maintaining presence to all of that at the same time. We're maintaining presence to what really matters to the organization that's hired you, whether it be, or the individual that's hired you, what really matters, why they've hired you in the first place, what they want to work on in this session, and then what suddenly shows up in the session, right? Suddenly, sometimes what has shown up in the session has been, opened everything up when I've worked with clients. So this is a nice little quote from Marcia Reynolds. She was she's a past ICF president, and she was one of the people involved in creating the original core competencies. Coaching behaviors include noticing energy shifts, tone of voice, pace of speech, inflection, behaviors, and what they're not saying, right? What they're not saying, what hasn't been said, what silence, hesitation. So this is all why maintains presence is so important. All right. So as many of you probably know, we now have 8 core competencies. There used to be 11. And I was talking to a friend recently and she said, oh, there's new competencies now. And I said, well, yeah, they're actually the same competencies. They just are articulated more concisely and more accurately. That's my point of view. I think it's great that now we have maintains presence and embodies a coaching mindset. For me, a lot of embodies a coaching mindset is all the things that you would do to maintain presence. And then certain ones, I think in my opinion, they they really wanted to like get away from coaching's about asking a question. Obviously asking questions is important, but I've totally been in sessions that were ICF, certified type sessions where people were having the opinion that you're only coaching if you're asking a question. So I think that's my, what I believe is, if you look at the competencies, I think a lot of that is reflected in the new competencies. So it was a result of a very comprehensive study, interviews with coaches who've been, coaching for some time. And then they, share what they were learning in a lot of these seminars and workshops with other practicing coaches. As they started to look at is this still accurate? Or how we are articulating the competencies, is this still accurate? And the main purpose was to make sure that how we are credentialing coaches is relevant to what seasoned coaches are doing. And so this is the year that this adoption will take place. So and that is a review that's taken place every 5 years. That this is the first time that they changed the competencies. So of course this is the 8 competency model. And we're going to be talking about maintains presence, the 5th competency. So, as I said, please go ahead and ask any questions. I'm going to do my best to watch the chat, but also, Cheryl, if you see a question you think I should answer, or if you see something that I'm missing, let me know. And then this is the original model.
I see a question from Pam. She wants to know, is meditation something you do automatically at the start of the session, or do you ask the client if they are open to it?
I do meditation myself. I do a process myself before the session. So depending on the client, there are times when I have had clients show up and there's like it's a windstorm coming to the session. And so I've said, hey, I'd like to do this. Would you be open to that? I do it as I think it would be important or useful. And I usually start out my sessions with, what's working. I have a structure to how I do my sessions, which is, I usually say, I want to hear what's working. What do you want to focus on today? And that's a way to get people present too, to talk about what's working and talk about what they're celebrating. Because a lot of times what people will bring to talk to you about something that is not working. And it puts them in a great emotional state and mental state to learn.
Okay,
So,
we have another question. As a mentor coach, how do you judge presence while watching or listening to the coaching session?
that's a good question. Let's talk about that in a little while. Because I think let's touch on that in a few minutes when we look at the markers, if that's all right. So that's a very good question, though. I think I think that here's the short answer. When you're maintaining presence, all of that will show up, I believe. All of the other things will be showing up if you're fully maintaining presence and focusing on what the focus of the session is. All right. Whoops, I'm trying to forward it the wrong way here. Oh, so I threw in this picture of my cat, Catalina. She's very good at maintaining presence. I basically just put it in here because people will usually laugh. She is very good at making her presence known and maintaining presence with me, and it's really hard to, it can't be ignored. All right, so remains focused. So remains focused, observant, empathetic, and responsive to the client, demonstrates curiosity during the coaching process. So I'll go ahead and start talking about that question now here. So it's an interesting thing when you look at these two aspects of maintaining presence. So if you could remain focused and observant and empathetic and responsive to the client without demonstrating curiosity, right? You could just kind of be responding and be observant, but not demonstrating curiosity. So I think a lot of times that's where we can get kind of hijacked by our clients, that we are focusing on being empathetic, we're focused on being responsive, and oftentimes there's things to be curious about. There's ways that they're looking at something that it's important for them to step back and look at. So I don't know if that helps that question. Who was that asking that?
Okay, Bob would like to know, he's interested in hearing your thoughts about Zoom versus telephone only as pertaining to presence.
You know, that's a good question. I believe, I think it depends on the coach and how you feel. Do you feel like you're missing something by one or the other? I feel very fortunate. I went through a 6-month embodiment training with Stuart Heller before I went through the coaching training with Newfield. And Newfield had an embodiment component, and they believe that, you know, as a coach, you know, we are humans we are mental, emotional, and physical human beings. And so that as a coach, you can intervene, or you can, you know, you could, they might call it, make a move in any of those domains. And so I feel like that all of that taught me to be like super observant. So in one way, you know, Zoom, you know, it's a camera. It's like a camera's focused on you. It's different from being present with somebody in person. So in some ways, people might be more self-conscious or more feeling like they're on display or whatever. And they might be more present with you on the phone. So I think it depends on how you feel as a coach, and I think also your client's preference. So, but back to that question about meditation, you know, I like to do in any kind of a group session, I like to do something that brings us all to the same emotional state, because I feel that it's easy to be thrown off like about ideas and thoughts and all that. And so when everyone's at in the same emotional state, it's like we have this special kind of, you know, they call it a container in other modalities. So one thing about maintains presence is the way that we bring ourselves to the coaching meeting. We're creating a container where deep learning is possible. So whatever we want to, whatever is useful for you to do to support that, it can be useful. So, okay, manages one's emotions to stay present with the client. I don't know if you've ever worked with a client who is really upset or really frustrated or really worried. So it's obvious that it would be useful for us to stay present with the client and not get all worried and all frustrated and all anxious. And, you know, that might be a time when when I'm picking up on that kind of emotional state, that might be a time I'll ask him if we could do that centering exercise. And usually people are very appreciative. All right. Demonstrates confidence in working with strong client emotions during the coaching session. So yeah, this is an interesting one, because I think, you know, that's why I think it's so useful that we have that way of thinking about coaching, that it's about you, or that's what I find it useful to think about coaching as about creating the future, because oftentimes the future will be impacted by what's going on right now and decisions the client has made and points of view the client has. And so while we are not therapists and we don't, you know, process people in the way that a therapist would, sometimes, you know, a client brings strong emotions to the session, and we need to, you know, bring ourselves to what's needed in that session, which may be to direct them to a therapist or other service provider that's appropriate. And sometimes, you know, when the training that I went through, that we do help them. You know, I was trained to help people understand how people look at it and explore what's the belief, the assessment that has brought them to that emotional state, and look at what other ways of looking at that, if as appropriate, what other ways of looking at that situation might be possible as a way to shift the emotional state to be what they wanted to work on in that moment. So and people can shift their emotional state by shifting how they're thinking, how they're interacting with something. So all right, and maintains presence is also comfortable working in a space of not knowing. And I feel like this is such a big one for everybody. I think when we are newer in our training, sometimes when we're working with a very strong-willed client, sometimes when we're working with a newer client situation, you know, we can kind of suddenly, you know, I think this is a challenge with in the consulting profession. I once worked with somebody, or I should say, talk with somebody that was having a challenge. He works in a big consulting firm, and he was wanting people to be able to lead their clients in these inquiries, and it was so difficult for them because they'd never had any coaching training, and they were very much more comfortable in being the expert. So as we look at these, what's difficult for you? What's challenging for you? To make this session as useful as possible, think about where are you more comfortable, and where could you like cultivate more strength, more confidence in that area, more ability in that area. I just invite you to look at that for yourself. Creates or allows space for silence, pause, or reflection. Sometimes some of the most effective client meetings I've been in, the client said, well, I'm not sure why I'm here. I'm not sure what I want to work on today. And oftentimes we get to work on something very, very powerful for them that shows up by being present and asking questions. And for one thing, you know, possibly reviewing, you know, where they are with their goals, and to the goals, are the goals still relevant? Any questions before we go on?
Yeah, I have a question, if you don't mind.
Okay, Bob.
I'm wondering if a client, this is just kind of maybe it's pure economics, maybe it's not, but an individual client who's paying for their own way and paying sometimes at a fairly high rate. How do you and you work with both individual payees and corporate payees? Do you find your corporate payees will more easily sort of come unprepared, and therefore, because they're not actually investing the time for themselves? I think does it relate, or is it just sometimes people just don't know how to prepare, or don't spend the time caring for themselves enough to prepare?
Well, that's a good question. I guess in my experience, it's been about the same. When I think about it, when I work with individual clients and I work with corporate clients, depending on what's going on with them, they might be more prepared for the meeting or not. But because I still say, what do you know, what's working? I like to know what you want to work on today, and what's working. And so oftentimes what's working will give you this opportunity to like reflect back on them, on the progress that they're making. So yeah, so my answer is, I don't really find that. I honestly don't really find that. I find everybody to be, in the both populations or cross populations, depends on what's going on and how organized and how prepared they are.
Okay, Angie wants to know, Angie wrote, I'd love to explore how demonstrating confidence in working with strong client emotions during the coaching process shows up in masterful coaching.
That's a good question. Let me think about that for a second. Well, allowing my response to that would be allowing space for that emotion, allowing the space for that emotion to be expressed, and exploring what that emotion's about and how that. So I think sometimes, that silence, that pause, that's what the client needs. I was thinking about, as I was preparing for today, I think a lot of people don't have in their lives a lot of the type of distinction we're talking about here. Someone maintaining presence just for them, just for what they're concerned about, what they're working on, what they're worried about, what happened 5 minutes ago, what they want to talk about right now. People don't have that. And so I think another comment I'll make about that is, when I think about somebody that I worked with that was extremely upset and frustrated, it's a combination of just letting them have that emotion and express it and be heard, be fully heard, and to be empathetic, but to avoid rushing in with a bunch of suggestions and a bunch of, soothing comments. I don't know if others have, if anyone else wants to chime in about that.
Yeah, Heather wrote, depending on who I'm coaching, when asked what they would like to work on, they will say they don't know, that there's nothing that stands out. However, within minutes, the ball gets rolling. They need me to hold space for their quiet, for things to come up.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you, Heather. Thank you for that. So I don't know if we want to go through, want to spend a lot of time. Well, Bob's asking a question. Do they have distinguished projects they are working on? Is there more you want to say about that, Bob? That question?
Yeah, like when clients show up and I don't know what to talk about today, to refer back to, hey, here's what you originally hired me for.
Right.
I noticed we haven't talked about your career project in a couple months, or your relationship project. The last couple calls, you've showed up in a lot of feelings. That's okay, but do you want to start talking about what you actually hired a coach for and creating some results in your life? So it's like try to start to circle back on what they actually wanted to get from the coaching.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how everyone else works, but I tend to have very clear outcomes that we've agreed to. You know, they have sometimes that's something that it takes a little time. Sometimes it gets written pretty quickly, and measures of success. And so we periodically, when people don't know what they want to talk about, we can review how are they doing? How are they doing? And like you said, Bob, that sometimes there's a lot of progress. There's a lot of progress that they haven't really reflected on, and or there's a new issue that comes up that they hadn't been thinking about. You know, and sometimes, yeah, you know, I think we all do this. We just kind of put things aside in our minds, and so then that, to Heather's point, the quietness can open up what maybe has been almost suppressed. So the main thing I think is different from the two, you know, the former articulation to the current one is it's about a current state rather than an ability. And it's very similar, I think. I don't know if anyone has any questions about the difference between the two, if you want to spend time talking about that. Uses humor. I mean, I think they're not necessarily calling out humor in the new articulation. Let's see, Heather has another comment. Heather says she finds holding a quiet space is so much easier to do on Zoom than the telephone. I can see them in their emotion. I generally do, as part of my preparation, I do some sort of like little centering thing where I'm focusing on the client, I'm focusing on their energy. And so I find that I can just pretty much pick up on a lot of things just by paying attention as well. So and then here's the, we won't go into, here's where I just had this slide up because I know one of the times I did this competency, people were disappointed that it didn't call out intuition, but intuitions embodies the coaching mindset, uses awareness of self and intuition. So I think that's another thing that's useful when you do some sort of centering practice for yourself. You just can pick up on things. All right. So this is just another nice, another quote I always enjoy. And this is, he's not a coach. He's a co-founder of MIT's Presencing Institute, but I love how he says the way in which we attend to a situation determines how a situation unfolds. So our role as coaches is to create this space for whatever needs to shows up for our clients, including all those, including holding the space for what they said they want and who we might know they are, reminding them of what we know about them and who they are. So these are the new markers for maintains presence. We'll just take a look at these. X in response to the whole person of the client, X in response to what the client wants to accomplish through the session. I think this is a really important one. So back to the question about how does the, when you're being evaluated, how does the evaluator evaluate on all these things? So this is an interesting one. Our client might say, this is what I want to accomplish in this session. And then, you know, maybe this is a little exaggerated example. You can see the person's effect or their emotions are kind of flat. They're just kind of talking, going through the motions. So, you know, we might let that go. I mean, like there was one time when I was coaching a new client, and the new client, and I was brought in to work with 4 different people at this company, and this was kind of like the designated client. They wanted this person to kind of shift his way of being with everybody, but they didn't want him to feel so, called out. So I worked with 4 people there. And the first session, he just sat like this, didn't even give me eye contact. So given it was the first session, I just let that be. I didn't call it out. And as we were talking, he right away brought up the issue that people had highlighted. And so then I, reflected back, the importance of, his perspective. And then I made an offer about how we might want to look at that. And so in that case, my choice was I'm still building trust with this gentleman. He doesn't know me from Adam, so I don't want to start like calling him out on everything. I just want to be with him. And when you're working with a client, what they told you they want to accomplish, what they told you that they hired you for, things can change. And so if a person is acting, you can see there's an emotional state that's really not kind of coherent with what they want to accomplish, or there's just anything going on. It's, there's this, that 0.5, we demonstrate curiosity. So the assessor would be looking at all of these things. Are you really being with the client? Are you demonstrating curiosity? Are you allowing silence? So yeah. And so another thing I wanted to mention here is, so suddenly as people are talking, they might make a side comment, or like for an example of people having a obviously in some emotional state, or like kind of like not seeming very present, I might say something like, I notice you have this expression on your face. I notice your energy seems a little bit lower than normal. Is something going on? Or I'm not sure how I would ask the question, but I will just pay attention to my sense. Is something, I noticed this, I noticed that. Is everything fine? Or is this what you want to talk about? Or so the point being that what the client told you they want to accomplish might change in the middle of the session. And so we need to be present to that. One example that I had was that someone just made a side comment about a meeting he wasn't invited to. And my radar just went up, and I just said, well, is that something, would it be important for you to go to that meeting? Is that important, that meeting important? And then that opened up this great big conversation that wound up, honestly changing his life. And because he, it was a complicated situation, and it was a difficult dynamic organizationally, but he wound up asking to be invited to a meeting at which he made an enormous contribution, and then he was promoted. So these are the moments that we really pay attention to, these moments of the client's energy, their attention shifting, and is that something we want to explore? So the coach partners with the client by supporting the client to choose what happens in the session. So, as Bob said, we could bring up, would you like to talk about your progress? Would you like, should we look at your goals? No, I don't want to look at my goals. We keep on checking in with them. Would you like to talk about, what would you like to talk about? You don't know what you want to focus on, but what's going on? All right, any questions so far? I mean, with any of that? Does that answer your question? Let's see, who asked that question about the mentor coach assessing you? I don't recall. So we don't have, as far as I know, we don't have the new MC level, but maybe this will address that question a little bit more. So this is for coaching presence. So the coach is a completely connected observer to the client. So picking up on all these cues, on the pause, on the hesitation, on the way people are holding themselves, on the emotional content of what they're saying, on the energy that they're bringing, on the side comment they just made. Is that something you'd like to focus on? Sometimes when I've asked people what's going well, that leads to like a lot of content, a lot of things, and then we check in. Would you like to talk more about that? The connection is to the whole of who the client is, how the client learns, what the client has to teach the coach. I recently shared an article with somebody about leadership. It was an example of, it was actually an old article. And it was an article that was showing, I thought it was showing that a lot of compassion and a lot of empathy that this very highly placed leader was having for people just by his actions. But it didn't produce the desired result in my client. His way of looking at it was, the guy's working all the time. That was what he took away from the client. So, I learned more about how he looks at things like that, how he looks at actions, and in the training that I went through, they had this distinction that the coach, the coachee is a legitimate other. So each of us, as a consultant is more of an expert model, although some consultants, employ coaching skills. But if we think of our clients as everything that they think and do is legitimate, it just, causes us to keep on staying curious with how does this person see the world, and how do I support them with what they're working on with, this particular client. There's some empathy issues we've been working on. All right. And the coach is ready to be touched by the client and welcome signals that create resonance for both the coach and the client. That's an area I think where sometimes unexpected things can kind of come up. Unexpected, you just have a sense about something they said, or they tell you a story that can show you something very important about them and their worldview. And I think oftentimes, especially when we have a more challenging client, this is a useful one. The coach evidence is a complete curiosity that's undiluted by a need to perform. So does anybody ever have that challenge? I think probably many of us do, that sometimes you, I have to say that there was a time where I was being evaluated by a coaching company, and there were like 3 evaluators, and then there was a client, and then there was another person. And I have to say that was really the instance where I slipped into wanting to perform, because I'd never been in that situation before, where I was like having all these people observing me, and I blew it. So I'll just admit that. But I feel like I'm pretty good at working with clients, but in that way. But I think maybe we'll just move on unless you have questions. So one last thing, the coach trusts that that value is inherent in the process versus having the need to create value. Okay, so any thoughts? Anyone want to share what you do to enhance your ability to maintain presence, or anything you want to share here?
Hi, Jackie, it's Karen.
Yes.
I'm actually going to have to drop here in a minute for a client, but I wanted to first say thank you.
Sure.
And just what kept coming to my mind, this is and I know it's well, technically a new competency, but this I would have to say is probably my favorite one, if you can pick a favorite. And just two instances that kept coming back to me as I was listening to you was, one is when I actually was going through my coach certification and like the final exam. I remember because I came from consulting with the answers, right? And so this was a difficult one, and it was just really emptying myself. And it was almost like this altered state of being you get into with this. And that just was so powerful, experiencing that. And then just when you were talking too about kind of centering or preparing for a client, I had one time who was running late to our session. I didn't know why or anything like that. And I could have busied myself with something else. But instead, I'm like, nope, this is his time. I'm just going to continue. Like, I quieted myself and just continue to kind of give him the space, even though he wasn't there. And he joined the call, and I found out he had just learned his mom passed away.
Oh my God.
And so like when you said that energy that vibrates, it's like I could have just busied myself, but instead I was like, no, this is his time. My responsibility as a coach is just to hold the space, not knowing, what was going through for him at the time. So that's again why I think this is such a powerful competency.
Thank you. I love that distinction you have about emptying yourself. I love that. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing that example of, yeah, I do the same thing. I just wait until if they're late. If it gets to be 20 minutes, then I assume that they're not going to show up.
But thank you for
welcome.
facilitating this topic.
Well, thank you. So my main invitations to you are, how do you take care of yourself in a way that supports you in bringing your full self to the coaching meeting, including what rituals ground you? I have little rituals I do. I do rituals every day myself, and then I do rituals prior to the session. So what do you need to do? One thing we can do is just reflect on the client. Like she said, hold the space. Karen said, hold the space, or just reflect on them. Just focus on them. So, there's some theories about our energy and how we are, that we can throw our minds very far distances. So, but I'll just, we're suddenly out of time here. Sorry, I spent too much time on the other thing, but these are some things that we can do to maintain presence. Notice what are your blind spots? What triggers you? I will have notes, and I will tend to review my clients' goals and notes prior. I'll think about what we talked about the last time. I have a coaching agreement where that clarifies my role and theirs. I feel like all of this supports me in maintaining presence and creating that container. This thing about creativity, I feel that I didn't make this up. I read a book once that was talking about this, that, we are all creative in our own ways, and creativity is really at the heart of who we are. And I think oftentimes especially now, we might let that, let our own creativity go by the wayside, and set aside some time for your own creativity. That will really fuel you in being yourself. And I think that's a huge distinction too, that, who you are is unique to you, and the presence that you bring to your clients is unique to you. And we want to encourage that. So, all right, I think we are out of time. I apologize. Was there anything you wanted to share, Cheryl?
No, I just wanted to end with Angie's comment. She was saying that she was part of a mentor coaching group this summer, and they talked a fair bit about trusting the process to let go of the need to perform and add value. I bet that was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I think that's a huge one. It's just a trust. If you have clear agreements with your client, they understand what coaching is, and you take responsibility for creating that meeting to be under those certain conditions, to just trust the process is very powerful.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right, well, thank you.
Great job as always. And thanks everyone for tuning in today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you, Jackie. Great presentation.
Stay safe,
Thanks very
everyone.
much. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much. Have a great day, guys.
Thank
You
you.
too. Thank you.
Seems like there's a message from Elizabeth, but I can't see what it says. Oh. Oh, I see. She just said thank you. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
All righty. Have a good day.
You too. Have a great week.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.